Imagine you're holding a 2001 P Vermont state quarter in your hand. It looks shiny and new, with nice details. You can see someone tapping maple trees, buckets hanging, and the outline of Camel's Hump Mountain in the background. It's a coin from the United States, part of the state quarter series that ran from 1999 to 2008. People sometimes say that this coin is worth $20,000, but that's not true. Each coin has its own market value, history, and design. I want to tell the real story of this coin in a way that feels like I'm talking right to you, casually and clearly. The Vermont quarter was released by the U.S. Mint on August 6, 2001, as part of the State Quarters program. The goal of that program was to celebrate each state with its own design on the quarter, and by 2001, Vermont was the 14th state to be honored. The design was created by artist T. James Farrell, and it features a maple tree sap collection scene, something that instantly brings Vermont to mind. You see the sugar maple tree, a person collecting sap, buckets lined up, and in the distance, the silhouette of Camel's Hump Mountain. It's a nod to Vermont's rural heritage and natural beauty. The phrase, freedom and unity, is also part of the design, reminding people of Vermont's state motto and values. There was even a special launch ceremony where officials handed out maple-flavored treats, very Vermont. But here's an important point to understand, lots and lots of these quarters were made. In 2001, the Mint struck over 423 million Vermont quarters at the Philadelphia Mint, and nearly 460 million more at Denver. In addition, there were a few million proof versions made for collectors. That means in total, close to 1 billion of these coins were produced. With numbers like that, it's no surprise you can still find them fairly easily. That's why, for most people, the coin is only worth its face value, 25 cents, if it's been in everyday circulation. If your quarter looks crisp and untouched, sometimes coin collectors refer to its condition with a grade, like MS63, MS65, MS67, and so on. These grades reflect the level of detail and how little wear the coin has. In the case of a perfect, brand new Vermont quarter, collectors might pay a bit more. For example, an MS63 coin is worth maybe $1. A really nice MS65 could fetch close to $4. If you get lucky and find a coin graded MS67, that might be worth around $20. And if it's the nearly perfect MS68, it might bring $30 to $45. There are even a few rare ones graded MS69, and those can sell for up to $600 at auctions if they're truly flawless. But even that is very unusual and only happens when the coin is in extraordinary condition. So why do some people claim that a 2001 P Vermont quarter is worth $20,000? That's a huge stretch, and probably the result of misunderstanding or misinformation. Modern U.S. quarters are generally not worth that much unless they're part of a rare error. The coins that actually fetch tens of thousands of dollars tend to be one-of-a-kind mistakes or extremely rare varieties. For example, there was a 2000 P South Carolina quarter that was struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet by mistake, and that error coin sold for over $35,000. Another well-known case is the 2004 Wisconsin quarter with the extra leaf error. On some copies, you can see an extra leaf near the corn design. Those typically go for over $500. But those are unique situations and not related to all Vermont quarters. When it comes to Vermont state quarters, no widely documented major error has been found that would be worth thousands. That doesn't mean every single Vermont coin is exactly perfect. Sometimes coins do have small flaws, and those can be interesting to find. For instance, some collectors have spotted cut errors, where a small piece of the coin design has broken away from the die and left a blob of metal on the edge. A tiny cut on a Vermont quarter might get $10 to $15 from someone who's interested. Or there might be a struck through grease error, where a thin film or piece of grease got between the die and the planchet, leaving a weird mark. That kind of coin might sell for $3 to $5 if it's in good shape. These error coins aren't worth thousands, but they're still fun to spot if you're a hobbyist. Remember, each coin has its own market value, history, and design. The Vermont quarter has a charming design and is part of a popular series. It's not rare, and it's not worth $20,000. The highest value for ordinary ones is in very high grades, and even then it's just a few $100s at most. If you do find an example with an unusual error or imperfection, you might get a little more, maybe up to $20, but nothing at the level of thousands. When someone says their 2001 P Vermont quarter is worth $20,000, it's almost certainly a mistake or someone trying to sound impressive. But don't let that discourage you from enjoying your coins. If you love collecting coins, it's exciting to check each one carefully, compare it to reference books or online guides, and maybe even send a standout specimen to a grading service. Sometimes you'll learn it's just a normal coin, as most are, but occasionally, you'll find a special one that deserves a closer look. So what should you do if you come across a Vermont quarter, or any state quarter, that looks extra sharp or has a strange mark? First, compare it to similar coins using images or descriptions from trusted coin websites or catalogs. Next, you might show it to an experienced collector or visit a local coin club or shop. If it looks like it might have a genuine error, you can consider having it graded professionally. Grading adds credibility and can help you sell it later if it's of real interest. But always keep that realistic mindset. Most state quarters, even in mint state, only fetch a few dollars. Only once in a great while will a coin's mistake turn it into something extraordinary. Let's be honest though, even a couple of dollars more than face value can be exciting if you just discovered it by chance. Finding a coin with perfect detail or a subtle, odd strike can spark your curiosity. You might put that quarter in a special plastic holder and keep it in your collection with a sense of pride. And that's what makes coin collecting such a fun hobby, the stories, the historical connection, and the small surprises. If you want to tell your viewers about this, you could say something like, I found a 2001 P Vermont quarter that looked really crisp. I read online that someone claimed it might be worth $20,000. But after checking reliable sources, I learned that ordinary copies are worth only 25 cents unless they're in perfect condition. Even then, the highest values are a few $100s. Errors exist, like cuds or grease, and might bring $10 to $20, but there's no known $20,000 version. So it's still cool and pretty, but not a treasure. And don't forget, the thrill of coin collecting isn't only about finding a rare gem. It's also about appreciating the art, the stories behind the designs, and the way each coin reflects a piece of history. The Vermont quarter, with its maple sap scene, connects us to the Green Mountain State's way of life. That's something to enjoy, even if you don't strike gold. The motto, freedom and unity, isn't just on the coin, it's part of the communal spirit of collecting, where people share knowledge and help each other spot something interesting. By now, you've learned the real value, both monetary and meaningful, of the 2001 P Vermont State Quarter. It's a well-made coin with a special design and lots of examples out there. In circulated condition, it's worth about 25 cents. In mint condition, you might get up to a few dollars, maybe a couple hundred if it's extraordinary. Errors might add a few bucks more, but nothing near 20,000. And most importantly, each coin has its own story to tell, because each coin has its own market value, history, and design. That's much more fun than just chasing a wild number. So when you put that quarter on your screen for your audience, you can smile and say, here's a 2001 P Vermont quarter. It's part of America's State Series. Let's look at the design, imagine the maple sap drippers, see Camel's Hump in the distance, and think about freedom and unity. Yes, some people have claimed it's worth $20,000, but in reality it's a pretty common coin. Still lovely, still worth collecting, and still a neat window into the history of our country. Thanks for spending this time with me, and if you'd like to dive into other coins, especially ones with interesting errors or rare backgrounds, just let me know. Coin collecting is full of surprises, and the journey is as rewarding as the findings.